Hello there again, YouTube friends. Dr. Teresa is here. We're checking on the progress of the Seahorse tank and its cycling and using the little ammonia alert there. The coloring might be a little bit off, but it's moved into the blue, which is the alarm. That's exactly what I want to happen. And we'll take a look at other pieces of the tank in just a minute, some things that I've done in gauging the readiness for when we'll be able to add seahorses. If you look at the gauge for the thermometer, it is right at the top of that range that they consider safe, or the safe zone for tropical fish. So really, the temperature hasn't budged from that level, and I don't have a heater in there. This is telling me I have the tank in the perfect location on an interior wall, but it still will have access to some indirect sunlight, and it's not next to any vent with heater or cooling system, so the water should stay pretty stable. Since the last time I recorded, one of the things I did is I added more seafood to the filter here. I mentioned that the mysis shrimp that I had put in a little nylon baggie created from pantyhose in to get the cycle started, and it basically disintegrated. This baggie had several large pieces of seafood in it, so it might have had squid, clam, things like that. It's actually the seafood I used for the cowfish. Well, look at this baggie. It was bulging at one time with seafood, but the food is really breaking down now, which is causing that ammonia to spike in the tank. That's exactly what I want, because it's building up all that nitrifying bacteria colonies, all those colonies that will keep the tank stable once the tank finishes cycling through all of the different nitrogen cycle phases. And hopefully we won't see spikes once the seahorses are added. As a testament to how much the water is being impacted, take a look at that skimmer. It is really skimming like crazy. It's going to bubble up. In fact, a couple of times now, I've had to empty the bucket. I've mentioned it's skimming so much that I've had to adjust the skimmer. I've had to move the hose from the skimmer into a bucket so it could collect. Well, it was just overflowing a moment ago. I'm going to move to show you the bucket. Right now, the bucket below is about a third of the way full. I've had to empty this bucket out a couple of times over the past few weeks. Once the skimming gets under control and I have more of a steady cycle, I won't need to use this bucket to collect water, but I continue to replenish the water and the salt levels so that the water stays at the appropriate height so that it can pull water into the filter, the hang on the back filter, and on into the skimmer. And I'm going to look up here now. Just a few moments ago, this was just overflowing, but let's take a deep look inside of what's going on there. You can see it bubbling, and it's really liquidy and foamy, and I know you can't see or figure this part out from a video, but the smell is not pleasant. As you can imagine, it would be from putrefying, degrading seafood that's left in a tank. And that's one of the reasons why it really is best to not have too many decorations or substrate that's challenging to clean at the bottom of a seahorse tank, because seahorses are very messy eaters and they will leave food everywhere, and it will be hard to pick it up and get it all out. And because of that, it's going to have an impact on the water. So people who start having problems with their seahorse health usually find that they have too much in their tank that prevents them from getting the tank as clean as it needs to be to keep the seahorses healthy. And unfortunately, if you don't see it and it's building up the toxins in the tank. It's creating invisible proteins that if they don't get skimmed out, it really does make the water toxic for the seahorses. So just looking back up here, now that skimmer is not overflowing like it was for me just a few moments ago, so we'll come back to that. One of the other things we're going to do today is just take an informal measure of how the water parameters are shaping up. I have an inexpensive testing kit here that can be used for fresh and salt water. This is not ideal to use, but you know, it really is just good enough for now. It's very simple. It gives you an idea, but if I need something that's a little bit more specific, and I really want to check the parameters, I do believe I have, with my other equipment, some of the powder mixes that are a little bit more complicated to use and require more time. But according to the instructions of this particular kit, what I do is I dip it into the water, I swirl it 2 times, 2 parameters, I can get immediate results, but I have to wait at least 30 seconds for the other parameter. So I'll show you what I mean. Let me dip it now. 1, 2. I'm not supposed to shake it off. I'm going to lay it down on the table and then align these measurement codes here. And so these here, it looks like we have GH and KH. I'm really not that worried about that. pH is really on the high side. Again, that may shift just because it's still a new tank and it's going through the ammonia cycle. It doesn't have ammonia listed on here, but I am looking to see where the nitrates are, which will be the next phase of what the ammonia will convert to, and then ultimately the nitrates here. And right now those really aren't showing up here, so maybe this test kit isn't sensitive enough for it, or maybe the cycle just isn't there yet. But either way, I've got some time before I can add seahorses, at least a couple more weeks. Probably next time I'll check in. Let me see if any color's changing there. Maybe a slight tinge, but I'll check in again maybe in another week or 2, and if I'm still not seeing any readings on the nitrate or nitrites, I may use my more sophisticated kit to see where things are. But hopefully we'll start seeing the ammonia alert start shifting back to that less toxic green and then into that safe level of yellow. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. We're getting closer and closer here. Just waiting for the tank to finish cycling. Thanks for being with me again today. Appreciate it.